Good weekend, everybody. This is D Hill, and you are watching Of Two Mindsets. Today, we have a special guest that I think everybody will learn a lot from. But before we do that, let's introduce the regulars. And of course, usually with me, we have Mr. RJ. RJ, how's it going today?
Good, brother. I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. On the other side, we have Mr. Izzy. Izzy, what's happening with you?
Nothing much, just enjoying the weather, the cold weather today, and relaxing.
Colder than usual, eh?
hmm
You look like you're dressed for it.
Yeah, I had the door open, so I dressed warm.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could join us today. I'm glad everybody's here. And introducing someone that I am honored to call a friend. He's a retired contracting chief and senior contracts manager for the Marines. He's a former section chief with the ATF. He also holds an MBA in management along with other multiple degrees and currently serves as the Department of Justice Director of Procurement Services. He's a father and husband and a long list of other things. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Telly Renfroe. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, brother. Thank you for the intro, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We are really honored to have you here and glad you took the time out to join us today. So, I've known you for a long time, but I have to admit there are some things I don't know about you. So, for instance, if I pull up beside you in those busy DC streets, or even next to Raymond James Studio or Stadium on a Sunday afternoon, what type of music are we going to hear coming from your car today?
Oh man, today, I'm heavy on what they have labeled as Christian rap. So
Okay.
every now and again, I'll vibe with some old school hip hop from our home state of Georgia, ATL more specifically. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So, but today, yeah, heavy on Lecrae, Alex Jean. um, uh, or it's Hovey, all the 116 are tight. So if y'all ain't up on it, and you get up on it. So yeah,
Okay.
Aaron Cole too. So yeah, yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm not familiar with all of those, but a few of them I've heard. So good music. Good music. You just had a birthday to pass. How did that go? Was it a week long, month long celebration, or what was the highlight?
Man, not this year. Last year hit the big 5-0. So we did a lot of things last year. Shout out, rest in peace to my boy Kobe. Went to LA for the statue unveiling. The cool thing about that is the statue unveiling was on my actual birthday. So
Wow.
a lot of the stuff had 2/8/24, turning 50, seeing that was crazy. Spent some time in Belize, the following week after that. And then, you came down for a party that we had in Tampa, in the summer, man. So yeah, it was a wild year last year. So this year, I did the old man thing. I kicked back, relaxed. I think I left the house once on my birthday, and the rest of the time I was on the couch like a potato, brother, chilling.
Hey, that's the way to do it. And you guys throw the best party, so great stuff, man. You gotta can't do it big all the time, I guess, especially at this age. But
Uh,
very very cool, very cool. So what do you do when there is some free time? What are you usually doing in your free time?
For the most part, I try to calm my brain because I'm involved with so many things that we'll probably talk about throughout this interview. So I try to calm my brain. I'm a big sports fan. I watch more sports on TV than anything else.
Right.
Because today's TV is such a program. I know they said we're going to watch a program on TV. The old people say that we're going to watch a program on TV, but they really are programming a lot of our people today. So a lot of that stuff, man, I don't tune into. I just watch sports and tell myself it's not rigged or it's not scripted. So I just kind of watch that. But yeah, that's it,
Right.
man.
So you and RJ were having a conversation about what the G is on your hat. So Um, why is Georgia your team?
Yeah, man. So Georgia Bulldogs, not Green Bay Packers. This is, the black and white version. You don't see the red on this one, but yeah, I'm a like I said, we from Georgia, man. Grew up in a small town. Guys I grew up with, that we grew up with, Robert Edwards, Terrence Edwards, played at the University of Georgia. And I rocked with Georgia a little bit before that, more basketball for Dominique Wilkins when he was there. But then when they went and played football, I've been locked and loaded ever since then, man. So I've been diehard Georgia Bulldog fan. That's my number one team over everything. So yeah, Georgia is just a quality program. They've we had many years of almost getting there, almost getting there, almost getting,
Right,
and
right.
finally crossed back over to the mountaintop in 21, then did again in 22. So happy to say I was there for both of them.
That's awesome.
You'll see me most of the everywhere in these games, no matter where they playing it. I'm traveling, trying to catch it. So
That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool. Do you tend to travel with them? Have you gone to stadiums outside of Athens to see them?
The crazy thing is I've never been to Athens and watched a game. Everywhere
Wow.
I've been play has been elsewhere. I went to Miami when they played Michigan in the Orange Bowl. I've been to Vanderbilt, watching play in Vanderbilt. I've obviously been in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to watch them play in the Peach Bowl,
Right,
each
right.
So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So um, we'll jump right into the career after high school. At least I think so. You decided to go to the Marines. Am I right about that? And why did you choose the Marines over the other branches of the military?
Uh, Crazy quick story, man. Well, obviously, like I said, you know me in high school. We
Right.
were in the top of the class, so I was a class clown. Most people didn't think I belonged in that class with y'all, but we had been in the same classes since we was in what, second, third grade anyway.
Long
So
time, exactly.
yeah, so yeah, man. I had a scholarship to Georgia State University for computer programming. I was really, really good at that, and
Right.
and but being from a small town, my mom didn't work, didn't have a lot, just lived with my mom, my grandmother. And as y'all know, if you know anything about Georgia State, it's in the heart of Atlanta,
Right.
Georgia 100. And they didn't have any dorms back in those days. I'm not sure if they have now, but they didn't have any dorms back in those days. So I'm like, man, how am I going, one, get there,
Right.
two, living
Where are you
in,
going to live?
even though school was free because I got a scholarship to go there, but I was like, yeah, nah. And I had a letter from a Marine Corps recruiter. I didn't want anything to do with the military. In my mind, I felt that Black people chose to go to the military because it was kind of like a quick out. They, had could go there instead of actually going to college or working hard to get to college and stuff like that. So,
Mm,
um, um, I signed I filled the letter out, sent it back to her. She came out, the recruiter came out, and we sat down and talked. And she said, "Well, I know looking at your grades, you're way smarter than what you scored on this ASVAB." I said, "Yeah, I didn't read any question. I was just, doodling on the thing, just selecting." So she gave me a pretest right there, and she said, "That's what I thought." And so, rest is history, man. I didn't know
right.
anything about the Marine Corps. I didn't know how hard it was. I didn't know any of that stuff. I learned all that stuff on the fly while I was in boot camp. So.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I want to welcome RJ and Izzy to jump in with questions at any time here, but I'll just
Yeah,
continue.
I got a quick question. I want to jump in. So because of like your test scores, did you get like an elevated status in the Marines because of that, or how did that work? Where did they place you initially?
So
Going into Marines.
So with the ASVAB, what it is actually a pretty cool test, and most people don't know about it. What it does is it kind of uh, draws out your strengths of what you're strong in. If you're a math person, you might be good at engineering or numbers or finance or something like that. If you're, uh, they have a gears portion on the test where you kind of like guess which direction the gears are going, and so on and so forth. That speaks to your mechanical, mindset and so on and so forth. Um, so the test really try to figure out where you should be placed as far as what jobs you should be qualified for, because each job
Okay,
has a certain score. So when I scored high, I could do any job in the Marine Corps I wanted to do. So that's basically what it did for me. It was just opened up every job on the test for me. I think
good.
I know what the high score is, but I think I scored a 67. And if you score more than a 50, you're like, pretty much can do any job you want to. So yeah, I had a 67.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Did the guy do a double take when he saw your score, or the lady?
No, she didn't. She said she knew that I was score high because she looked at, my test scores from my,
Hmm.
schools, scores from school, all my grades and stuff. She's like, there's no way that you're like this smart and then you score that low on the test. So she wasn't surprised. She was like, okay, now it makes sense. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Very cool. So, if it's okay, tell us a couple of the places you were stationed, and maybe what was your favorite place?
Yeah, so obviously I went to boot camp, well I say obviously, but I went to boot camp on Paris Island, South Carolina. It was probably one of the most challenging things for me. People know Marines as, being physically, talented or the physical attributes stand out more than anything sometimes with Marines. But in all actuality, the physical part is the least about us. It's our mental.
Mm,
Down there, they teach you, they take you to what you think your limit is, and then they push you past your limit.
wow,
And then you say, okay, I got a new limit now, right? So I can do 20 push-ups. Um, and then you get tired, then they bring you back. The next time you do 25, you're like, okay, well, I thought 20 was my limit, so now 25 is my limit. Oh, now 30, 40. And then you slowly realize that the only limits that you have is the one you place on yourself. So I left Parris Island, went to North Carolina for training, ended up getting stationed in North Carolina. It was terrible. I thought that was the only thing the Marine Corps had to offer was Jacksonville, North Carolina, which sucks. But
right.
uh, I left there and went to Okinawa, Japan, for a year. Young in mind, didn't really enjoy the country like I should have the first time around. Didn't really kind of embrace where I was at. Went back and got stationed in Georgia, in Albany, Georgia. That was decent. It was a game changer. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
And then went to Hawaii. So Hawaii, California, um, Japan again, here in DC. Um, um, yeah, and then while serving, I've been to 17 different countries.
Wow.
So yeah, very world travel.
Very nice. Very nice. So, how did the Marines prepare you for life and your present career?
I think it's the part I alluded to, is the mental part, right?
Right.
So, um, a lot of Marines are known to be cocky, and the reason why they're like that is because of that, drill I told you that they do to you while you're there. They pretty much remove what you think is your limitations. And so because of that, once I left the Marine Corps and got into corporate America, so to say, there was nothing that I didn't feel I could do. There was no challenge I felt like I couldn't conquer. As far as being a leader, I started leading people at age 19,
Wow.
and I is from 19 to probably 40 years old. I had led people all that time except for 2 months. Uh,
Mm.
and then I was back into leadership position after that, and I'm still leading today. So my leadership abilities, what they taught me in there, probably was the thing that stands out most, outside of my mental mindset.
And
You said, I got a question. You
yeah, go
said
ahead. Go
something.
ahead.
You said something interesting in the beginning about prior to you joining the military, and I can relate. I had that same thought about it as far as like people going into the military back in those days. It was like an easy way out. What changed your mind, or what? How did you see it once you joined the military? How did the reality change for you?
Oh, that's a great question, RJ. Thank you for highlighting that. Uh, it changed because when I was in basic training, man, there was a guy named George Puglisi. I'll never forget him. Little short, big head dude. Uh, he was from New York. He had a law degree.
Hmm.
And he chose, I was like, dude, what the heck are you doing in the Marine Corps? And let alone, what are you doing at Parris Island when you should be at Quantico going through officer training school to become an officer instead of being enlisted? And he said, I'll get there. He said, but this is where real Marines are made at. And I wanted to dedicate my life. I wanted to support this country that I live in. And I looked around, and the more and more people I encountered, there was a lot of extremely intelligent people that's currently serving in the military, was serving in as well, that came from all different backgrounds, people that were filthy rich. I met a guy who inheritance was tied up into him serving into the military. So he
Wow.
chose to go to the Marine Corps and serve. Once he served 4 successful years in the Marine Corps, then his inheritance would be unlocked. He'd had, I think, about $4 or $5 million that was waiting on him. And he was just the most humble kind of guy you ever want to meet. And ended up doing more than 4 years because it meant that much to him. So even though he had more than enough money to do everything else. So there's a there's a uh, different collection of individuals that serve in the military. It's a microcosm of America, good and bad.
Right. And I think that's a big misconception about the military, that these people are there because they have to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's no other choice for them. I thank you for you clearing that up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah,
You're right. You're absolutely right. Like I said, that's a great question. Thank you for asking the question.
you're welcome. Because I had, like I said, I had the same misconception. I mean, my wife is in the military, so I had the same misconception prior. So
Right,
thank you.
right, 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 right. Yeah, I got beat up and humbled my just by being in it and seeing completely different. Like, man, how stupid are you? People are just
Yeah.
doing this only. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yo. All right.
Well, when we were growing up, and I just want to touch on the type of people who are in the military. I think of Boys in the Hood, and Lawrence Fishburne had that famous saying, "The black man doesn't have any place in the white man's military." Obviously, you disagree with that.
Right, right, right. Well said. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It's a white
um,
man's military. It's a white man's world in so many aspects. So it doesn't matter where you're at in this, especially in the United States. This is their system, not ours. It was never intended for us to operate in their system except for as property. So people have to make sure when they make statements like that, you have to think about where you're at and what you're doing. Even if you're in the hood, you're
right.
still part of their system.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, 20 years in the Marines, is that right?
Yeah.
And you were the contracting chief and senior contracts manager there. What does that job entail?
Oh man. So I'll start out a little bit different from your
Sure.
question, but get there.
Absolutely.
So my cousin was in the Marine Corps, and he told me, he's like, whatever you do, choose to be in supply. Go be
Mm,
supply administration. I'm like, what is that? He's like, you just basically, working in the office and da da da. It's like, okay. I was like, well, my cousin said do that, so that's what I'm doing. So my recruiter's like, you can do anything you want to do, and you choose that job. Like that's a job that people get because they can't get anything else. But I was like, nah. My cousin said, don't listen to the recruiter. Take the job. So like, all right. So I took the job. Went to training, and what supply admin is just inventory control. So, people work in a warehouse, they count and make sure you have X number of boxes or of this or that, pens, pencils, and stuff like that. And then there's somebody in the office that keeps a record of it on a computer and has a, spreadsheet. Well, we know it's spreadsheets nowadays, but
right.
back then, something different. So that's what I did when I first came into the Marine Corps. And quickly, I realized like this is not what I want to do. So I had someone who saw me working on something while I was in Japan in '96, and he said, "You like you'd be really good in procurement." I was like, "What the heck is that?" He said, "Don't worry about it. I'll set you up an interview." In my mind, it's like I'm already in the military. How or what in the world do I need to interview for? And so, lo and behold, a couple weeks went by. I went over to the shop, sat down, talked to this man. And he told me what procurement does. Basically, in supply, we order things, and it's in a system, and the units can ask for it, and we just give it to them, right? And then
Right.
we put in a new order, and it just shows up. Don't really think about, this comes from some big warehouse in the sky. That's what we kind of think about. But what was happening is people on the other side of that, procurement people were actually going out and finding the best deals and purchasing that stuff via a contract from a company, and the company was delivering that stuff to said location, and then we would take it and use it while I was in the military. So I was like, man, that's pretty cool. That's interesting. So I switched over into that job in 1998,
Okay.
and it's probably like the best thing ever. I was in Albany, Georgia when that happened. And
Awesome.
so that feel, what I do in not a wartime situation is, like I said, is there's nothing that I can't procure, um, buy, whatever term you want to use, but
I
I can.
assume that, and I apologize for interrupting, but I assume that requires building relationships with suppliers, with other people, the middlemen and everything. Is that right?
Well, I'm kind of like the middleman, right? So what I
Okay.
do, the customer will say, "Hey, I need an IT specialist that is, or a company that can come in and bringing me 10 IT specialists to run my help desk to, uh, also do network operations, first, second, third tier. I know your IT guys, so I know you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Right. So you have someone that says they want that. My job is help them, one, write out what we call a statement of work or a performance work statement to kind of describe what they want them to do, how long they need them for, and all the different tasks they'll be doing. And then I solicit companies to come in and propose to us, what they have to offer, and what we choose the one that best meets the requirement. And then we award the contract. It can be for $100,000 or $1 billion, a couple of $1 billion, and that company is now on the hook of doing that work, and we're on the hook of paying them up to that amount on that contract. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the past almost 30 years.
Wow. And so basically now, and we don't want to leave the Marines quite yet, but this is obviously setting up the foundation for how you got to where you are now. And I assume it probably wasn't such a difficult transition for you. Why did you why did you eventually leave the Marines?
So I'll tie the two together. The job itself, while I was also the other side of that, of when it is a wartime situation, what I have done is, right after 9/11 happened, about 2 months later, I was in country, right? I can't really say where, but I was in
Of
country.
course. Yeah.
And my job was to build a base. So the way it goes, if the war is in this country, and as soon as it starts out, we don't have a safe place for us to go. So most of the time, Marines will get dropped in via air, and they go and they fight and they try to secure enough land space for us to move into and actually build a base. But
Uh,
they still need somewhere to reconstitute that before getting to that point. So my job was to go before they even went, for the most part, and set up what we call a reconstitution base that was in and around the theater of operation. So I went out, I was by myself for most of the time, and then they sent someone to help me. I basically took a blank lot of sand and built a base.
wow.
And then the Marines came in, and then the first casualties of the war came from the location in which I was located at. So I had breakfast with them that morning before they got killed. So that's
Mm.
the other side of doing what I do. But but the thing about it is, um, the federal government has set it up in a space, whereas whether I'm in uniform or in a suit and tie, we all had the same requirements. We went to the same training, same schools, and you sit in the classroom. I might be a Marine, and then someone else is in the Army, someone else is Navy. Then I have civilians that's working at whatever
Right.
federal agency all in the same class, learning the same thing. And when I went to class, I was like, okay, cool. So I got a job now that I can do once I get out. I never intended on retiring. Life happens and then you make decisions based on that. So after learning all that stuff, I realized the value in my job and how much money I can make on the outside.
Right.
So I went from making, with all my beautiful benefits and time in the military, about $70,000 a year to well over $100,000 a year like that. I think I had six different job offers the day after I retired.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You mentioned classroom, and you have multiple formal educational degrees.
Mhm.
Where do you find time? How did that happen? How were you able to? You have an MBA and other degrees. Where was the time to do that, and how does that work?
So it's like that mentality that we have, that we have to be kind of, that I can almost do anything I want I want to do, that
Right.
mentality. It's like I took classes in between at nighttime
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes during lunch, my lunch breaks. So a lot of night classes, and I would say, so I have, I think, 6 degrees. Out of all those degrees, I've only taken online classes, maybe about seven online classes. The rest of those classes was in a classroom, and most of them at a university or an annex of the university. So a lot of sacrifice, man. A lot of sacrifice from my family, not seeing me at times, or kids I can't play with them, or whatever. You'll deploy, you do other things, and you come back, and I'll jump right back into school, take multiple classes at a time. So yeah, it was just a.
So, so just to be clear, you're in the military, you're working, you have a family
Mhm.
and other responsibilities, and you still found time to get that extra education.
Right, because
So
I promised my mother when I decided to not go to college out of high school that I would get my degree. I promised my counselor, Miss Betty Poole, the same thing, because she was extremely disappointed that I chose to go to the military because she couldn't stand the military. Uh,
really,
yeah, and and go to college. So both of them ladies are extremely proud of what I've done, and I said I kept my promise to you guys. I got the degree and then some. But yeah, yeah. So being a active duty Marine, again, a leader, 'cause so I got other Marines to take care of,
right?
uh, not just, myself and then a family. Yeah, I still found time to do it. And most of my GPAs are 3.7 and up. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
What are those 6 degrees, Telly, if you don't mind telling us?
I have two associates, one in business and one in computer information systems, bachelor's in business management, um, two masters, one MBA and one in master's, project management. And then the last degree is an associate's, but it's probably my one I enjoyed the most, uh, in culinary arts. I'm a chef. I'm a trained chef.
Okay. That is amazing.
I was re I was reading that and I was like, wow, this man is a chef. I did not know that until
Yeah.
a couple of days ago. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I said I want to do something that I didn't have to do for work. I just want to do something that was fun. So I always wanted to go to culinary school, and I ended up, that was my very last degree, was that. So yeah.
And it was one other thing about you said when you used to go in and you had to initially build a base, were you like hands on or were you like giving the directives? I just wanted to know about
So
that.
so at the time I was stationed in Hawaii when 9/11 happened, and my three-star general of that base, he was in charge of all Marines from Hawaii around the globe to Asia. And so he said, I want to take my command out, which had never been done before, because that command is not a deployable command. It's a garrison command. So um, he selected me to go and do his procurement work for him. Um, so so I was hands-on. I went out in a nearby town. I think the closest town to me was about 2 hours drive one way. I went to that town and I contracted out with local companies to build different things for me. So I know that I needed 6 or 7 different um, office spaces for people to operate out of, right? I need living quarters for people to live out of. I need something for them to live on. And he didn't give me that direction. He just told me that I needed to be able to outfit a base for 221 Marines. And I was like, yes, sir.
Wow.
And so I had my authority, I had my direction, and then everything else just came from me, man. I designed the office spaces um, to support everybody. I chose all the vehicles that will be, because we have what we call a motor pool, motor transportation pool of vehicles that people can go and pull out and go do their work, whatever they gotta do, engagements, diplomacy, matters in different countries or whatever. So I chose all the vehicles. I had multiple rental car agencies that gave me these vehicles, and then I had people help me shuttle them to one location, and I told them to go away. And I had other people that came in, Marines at that time, would come pick them up and take them to a lot of where I wanted them to. Mail rooms to get people get mail, IT systems, all lines dropped, telephone plans, everything. All that stuff came from me.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, what was the most interesting or unusual things you've had to procure, but that sounds like it might be it. But what might be the most interesting or unusual items you've had to procure in your
Um,
time?
yeah, by far that deployment was a career changer for me because I was so junior in rank.
Right.
The position I was holding was something that was much, 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 much higher than what I was supposed to be able to do. So that year, 2003, I was named Marine of the Year
Wow.
of all Marines in the Marine Corps. I won several of the awards off of that. But probably the coolest thing I
Yeah,
did.
you need to pause on that because that's
Right,
yo,
right.
that's crazy.
That's amazing.
Marina, yeah, yo, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, probably the coolest thing I did. I was in Belize, in 2007, and yeah, no, yeah, I'll shoot. No, I'll say actually 2002. I left the Middle East and went back to Hawaii. But while I was in the Middle East, because of how well I was doing, the general said he wanted me to go and represent us in Africa. And so I flew on his jet to Africa, got there and made plans for supporting then the Secretary of Defense and his I'm sorry, yeah, the leader of Joint Chiefs of Staff. I take that back. Uh, General Tommy Franks. He was having his annual summit with the 13 U.S. ambassadors of the Horn of Africa, and
Mm.
so I was selected as their contracting officer for that evolution. And so I had to go and actually I contracted out an entire resort for them. So we took the entire resort. Their security people came in, secured the area, um, set up meals and tours and all that stuff for them, and got all the stuff they needed, and um, secured a runway so they can have secure flights in and out. And got them there, and they did their thing, and they went back home, and I did what I had to do, and then I finally went back to Hawaii. So
That's awesome.
that's
That's
probably
that.
the coolest thing, yeah.
Hmm.
Very
All
cool.
right.
Telly, what was the highest rank that you achieved in the Marines?
So enlisted have 9 ranks, E1 to E9. I retired as an E8. Was considered to be a max sergeant. I um basically turned down E9 and walked out the door because I was losing money while I was in the Marine Corps. So,
Right.
like I said, the skill set that I have, all the experience and education I had, my first master's, I finished in I started going to school in 2000, see, 1999. It was the first time I took a college course. In 2008, I had my master's. So I had my two associates, the bachelor's and the first master's, about 2008. So
Very cool.
5 years before I retired, I had all the education I needed to go and do what I need to do. So
There you go.
they offered it to me. I turned it down. I had just came back from Afghanistan. I was out there for a year, and I was ready to go. And it was like, "Well, you can stay here." I was like, "No, I'm good. Peace."
It sounds like it was a good decision.
Yeah, yeah. You know, for most people, they look at, well, everything is great. I'm at the pinnacle of my career. This and that, and things is good. And yeah, you could stay there if you want to, but comfort is a thief, man. So
Right. Right. So,
yeah.
I know a young lady who recently, um, she got into the Air Force, and I think she's in her second year there now. And one of the things she told me is that, I tell her about people like yourself who made good careers and did well starting in the military. But she says that the benefits are not as good as they were when we were coming up. What do you know about that? And is that the case as far as you're aware?
The benefits are the same.
Mm,
She's probably, as a lot of people in this day and age, they pay more attention to social media as facts
mm,
than anything else. Um, but the benefits are kind of the same, right? The only thing that's different between their generation now, because my youngest son is in my daughter and my youngest son is in the military.
right.
Uh, um, so the difference is when I retired, I got um 50% of my highest three average pay. All right.
Gotcha.
You know, and then I got that the first month after I retired. I'll get it until I'm no longer alive.
Awesome.
Um, and nowadays they get the same thing. It's just at 40% instead of 50%.
I
So
see.
it everything else is the same, right?
Hmm.
But the biggest benefit is, I think my last 6 or 7 years we had the thrift savings program, which is like our 401k, right? And prior to that, that's all we had was you're gonna make it to 20 years and you get 50% and maybe disability, and that's all you're gonna get. And then like I said, about 7 years before I retired, we got TSP. So I only had 7 years to contribute to TSP. Well, if she's stay 20, she's gonna have 20 years to contribute to TSP.
What
And
exactly is TSP?
the thrift savings plan,
Gotcha.
call it, it's like I said, it's like our 401k. We contribute up to, I think it's up to 4%, 7%. They match up to 5%.
Okay.
So
Okay.
basically, you know what I'm saying, they matching 5%. And you gotta think about this, right? In the military, the only pay of yours that is taxed is your base pay.
Mm,
Your housing allowance, your food, all that stuff is tax free.
awesome.
So
Awesome.
when you can take another 7% off of your tax money and put it into a non-taxable account, you're winning. So
Beautiful thing.
it's a beautiful thing. So she's looking at it from the wrong perspective.
All right. Well, we're going to take a little break. I just want to thank our subscribers for continuing to watch us. You're watching Up to Mindsets, and we appreciate y'all taking us. Please take a moment to hit the like button, and if you're not a subscriber and you like conversations like these, go ahead and hit the subscribe button also. That'll make it easier for you to know when we have a show, and it's free. So, what is there to lose? You're watching Of Two Mindsets, and this is Mr. Telly Renfroe. Um, we're going to move on to your current career, and that is with Procurement Services at the DOJ. You're the director there. Can you tell us? You told us a little bit of what procurement is when in the Marines, and forget my dog if y'all can hear her in the background. Um, what exactly do you do, or what does the department do for the Department of Justice?
Yeah, so Department of Justice, it's in the news. It's always in the news. Seems like recently, about, court cases that is trying. And obviously, our current president was, tried by the Department of Justice on, some different things. And so it's the law enforcement and um, lawyer arm of the I mean of the government. I call it it's the largest uh law agency in the world, in my opinion. We
Right.
have lawyers all over the place. So my particular job and role and position that I'm in is I support basically all the department in some aspects. We have in the Department of Justice, there's 44 components in their Department of Justice. My office supports the 38 directly. And then there are plenty of times where I support the other seven offices, which is FBI,
Mm.
U.S. Marshal Service, Bureau of Prisons, Drug Enforcement Agency, and then the ATF. So, yeah, a lot of responsibility. My office, we have about 36 people there. We're responsible for probably just shy of 1,000 contracts, worth about $25 billion. So
So you are in charge of $25 billion budget. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. What's a typical day like for you if you're at work, of course?
today, and this new administration is it's crazy.
I bet. I bet.
It's seriously crazy. But in normal times, man, I am. I try to be a true director because, sometimes people get into, executive positions and they try to do the same thing they did before they got there.
Right.
Um, and you're doing a dysfunction to the people who you are serving as their leader, and the people you're supporting outside your particular organization. So I try to distance myself from the day-to-day operations, but I do get phone calls from different CIOs around the DOJ, or the other executives asking about how they can do things better, or they have a problem trying to fix their problem, trying to get a procurement done, trying to interact with a vendor, trying to get them to get straight, or respond to a protest, different things. So, yeah, it's a grind most days, but we have good days where we just, I celebrate the people in the office and look after them, and make sure that they are mentally straight, with all we have to do.
But what does making sure they're mentally straight entail?
Well, I mean, for this is for any leader out there, no regardless if you're in military, you're in federal government or private sector. Um, um, your employees are only as good as their mental state is, So if
That's
things
understandable for sure. Yeah.
right. So if things are not good at that person's home, sometimes you don't
Mm.
want to get into their personal business, but just talk to them. It's like, hey, how are you doing today? Look them in the eye, sit down with them for a second. Do you need to vent, get something off your chest? Whatever it may be. I think those moments are important. And then just sometimes, like, you know what, push away from the desk, push away from the whatever work you're doing. Let's go to lunch, right? Let's just lay
Right.
down, go to
Right.
lunch, or let's go bowling. Let's go do something. You didn't think you was gonna do that today when you came to work. I know you got a lot of stuff to do. I get, but let's just, everybody just close up your office. Let's go do something. We had a barbecue a couple months ago, so I was like, hey, they took the team out to Haynes Point here in DC, if you know the area. And they just had a barbecue, and all the managers, we paid for it, and the employees just come out and decompress and unwind. So that's what I mean by taking care of your employees mentally, to
We
make
would
sure.
definitely have a happier workforce if more management and directors took that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Telly, I wanted to ask you. I was reading your bio, and you have a laundry list of stuff that you do, and you just mentioned, up to 1,000 contracts, 25 billion dollars worth of contracts. Is it ever a heavy crown to wear? Your job. Like, do you ever get stressed or anything like that, or ever met something that challenged you? to your peak?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of challenges over the years, and I had my very few moments of stress. I think my wife said the first time she ever seen me stressed was when I got ready to transition out of the Marine Corps into retirement, life, and then to the federal government eventually. But for the most part, I don't have any other stressful points. I keep things in perspective, man. I've talked about, the deployments I've had and doing contracting there. I've seen a lot of things, and nothing that I see today, it it you know supersedes that. So most of the time I'm really calm. Some people don't know how to take me. My old boss said he's like, you scare me. And I was like, why? He's like, because you seem like you always have the same temperament. Like nothing shakes you. He's like, we're being meetings together, and I was like, okay, he's gonna get mad and say something, and you don't say anything. You just like, and he's like, he said, so I'm not sure if you're ready to kill everybody or you like everybody. I don't know which one it is. So, so he said, but I found out to be a beautiful trait in the time of chaos. We lost one of our beloved employees. She had a bout with cancer um, the year prior and then came back to work. And just to find out she had a brain tumor and she was gone in 2 months.
Wow.
So he's like, I was no good. I couldn't handle the office. But your leadership was just amazing. He said, you carried the office even though you wasn't even in charge. So, he appreciated that. He still thanks me about that to this day. So
I'm
yeah,
sure you
I don't know
felt
about
that her loss, but because of your training and your past, you were able to handle it in a different way, at least visually. So,
yeah, we compartmentalize. We learn how to compartmentalize those things. You can't get down in the dumps when you lose somebody. It hurts. For sure, hell, it hurts, but you have to take a moment when the time is right to grieve, and then you get back into the game. So, but no, I think, Izzy, man, looking at what I do, uh, it just only been probably recent years that I actually start talking about some of the things I've done in my past and some accomplishments I made. I just don't talk about myself like that. I just try to stay humble, man. So I don't think it bothers me, or I don't get the gravity of what it is most times because I just don't think about it. I just put my head down and do my job and don't look at myself as anything above anybody else. I don't hide behind titles. I don't use my title and boast about anything. Or I try to be a normal person, man. So yeah.
Is that something you learned to be, or have you always been stoic the way you are now? Like,
I had a rough childhood too, so before I met you, Dietrich. But yeah, so through all those things, man, I had to learn how to be that way. So I think probably all my life I've been that way. The Marine Corps helped reinforce that by building even more confidence in us and what we can do and capable of doing and how to be mission focused and people focused and taking care of your Marines. So, I replaced taking care of my Marines with just taking care of people I've been blessed to be in charge of over these years. So I just focus on them and not myself. So God got me, so I don't have to worry about me.
that's right. Okay.
absolutely. So, you've been with the DOJ through several presidential administrations. Do you see abrupt changes in your work from administration to administration?
Um, Sometimes you do. Sometimes the things that we spend our money on or who we do business with, sometimes if a particular administration has issue with a certain country and there's a lot of products that flow out of that
Mhm.
country, they'll change, you know, uh, we have to get stuff from.
Right.
A couple of administrations ago, we had it where, um, or if we get support on contracts, then people had to be US based citizens and they had to live in the US. So before then, they just had to be US citizens. And they have to live in the United States. They could just be US citizens. So it changes like that. And this administration right now, with the Doge um, talking about, efficiency and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, they're after contracts that they deem non-essential in some aspects. And so we have to justify whether those contracts are essential and how they support. To a point, what's the statutory law that you are operating under in the federal government, and how does that contract support you fulfilling your duties on that statutory law? So that's kind of where we're at in this time.
So Doge, the government, or excuse me, the Department of Government Efficiency, has definitely affected you. You've seen they're causing a lot of shakeup in the government, I guess, and that's affecting everybody. So, do you agree with what they're doing, and do you agree with the manner in which they're doing it?
So, for me, it's not it's how they doing what they're doing is there's nothing wrong with it. How they're doing it is the problem, right? So, immature leaders lead through panic and fear. Mature leaders don't lead that way. So, and there's there's people the image that's being portrayed by my fellow civil servants is that we're lazy and we don't, and that is again so far from the truth. RJ, to our point earlier about people in the military, I thought that people in the military was blah blah blah. You had the same kind of thought on them, and there's people today that think that people in the federal government employees, we're overpaid, we don't work, we're lazy. While we're in COVID, people didn't work, they were just lollygagging. Is there a group of people who are like that? Absolutely. There's a group of people
Definitely.
like that in the federal government. There's a group of people like that in private sector. There's a group of people
Right.
like that in the
For sure.
military, right? It doesn't matter what sector they're in. They're people, and we all have people that's like that. So, but they're not the majority. The majority of people work much longer when they're home because why? A you don't have a point that tells you, oh, it's time to move from this point to this point now, right? So
Right.
it's time for me to leave here so I can, if you're in DC, leave here at 3 o'clock so I can get ahead of this traffic so I can get home and get to my kids before they have to have practice or be picked up from practice or so those are
Yeah.
your things that tells you I gotta go. But if I'm working from home, I can
Right.
stay and continue to work past my normal 3 o'clock window to 6 o'clock, go get the kids, come back, dinner's already ready because I was home, and now I can work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So
Yes.
people are
Yes.
working 18 hours a day, but they only being paid for 8. We don't get
I, I
There you go.
I can 100% relate to that because I work from home mostly, and oftentimes I won't even take a lunch because you don't even what I'm saying, when you're in the office it's okay, it's lunchtime, let's go down the street and eat lunch. When
right,
you're at home it's like okay, you just working, you walk to the kitchen, maybe get you a snack or something, then you right back to your desk.
right,
It's you're actually working more,
or
more most
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, so the image that's being portrayed out there is a one that people are lazy. We don't do any work, so I'm going to force you to go back to your office. So the pundits that's on social media are saying, "Hey, get that lazy butt back in the office. Stop crying. You should work. You should be appreciative of what you get." And at the same time, a lot of people that they're talking to of going home or whatever, those people are beneficiaries of that government program and don't realize it. They think that if I'm not on Medicaid or Medicare or take food stamps, then I'm not on a government program. Oh, buddy, you don't even understand the federal government yourself. There are so many programs that support us. And, your kid having school lunch, and because you don't make a lot of money in your job you do, they get what they call, what's that, reduced lunch.
Right.
Ridiculous.
Where do
Yeah.
you think where do you think that money come from? Who you think managed their program? Oh, it's the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Telly, obviously, there's no direct route to get to become a director in the Department of Justice, but
Mhm.
what would you tell a teenager who might see this interview, what's the best way to become even eligible to have your job? Well, how should they start out?
And I mean, all you guys have been in a career of some sort or currently in a career of some sort is like, and you know this, there are people who work for, likes and dislikes and awards and everything like that, right? And some they'll get them, right? But if you look at the long term of their career, it's very short. They
Mm,
they they hit a plateau and they kind of fall out. But the person who puts their head down, goes in every day, works hard, set their own goals, their own ceilings, those people get seen and they get elevated and they get elevated and they get elevated. They're not asking for it. Their work and everything they do is saying, you need to bring me to the next level. You need me here. You need me there. And then some places that we are, yeah, we're not recognized, but that still should not stop how you operate. And so for me, early in my military career, um, I was hit with that. I was working hard. I wanted to be recognized and wanted an award. And I left the office, and a guy that was half as good as me got all the praise and got the award and whatever, whatever. And I got shunned and I got pissed and it hurt. And I was like, I would never work for another award. I would never work for somebody else's approval. I only work to my own approval. I set my own goals. No one else can put more on me than I can put on myself. And so I know if I reach my goals, I'm going to far exceed anything that you can put upon me. So for if you're a young, teenager living in this day and age, understand that. Stop looking for external appraise and attaboys. Just put your head down, do your jobs, challenge yourself and go get it.
that's great advice. Izzy, you had some more questions, I thought.
It was one question I wanted to ask, just about what's going on with the DEI situation now with Trump.
Mhm.
Because it's being touted by a lot of people that he's trying to end the employment of black people. And since we got you here, what they're citing is they stopped recruiting from some prestigious Black Engineer Awards event, and so they're saying like that's the beginning of it. Do you have any insight on that? Like, is it true? Like, or like, what's going on with that as far as the DEI situation?
My response might get y'all a bunch of a bunch of attention.
Bring it on. Bring
So,
it on.
uh, yeah. Oh man. So, I'll preface my response with, everyone has a right to be protected, treated equally and fairly. Um, so what he's after, and black people are the scapegoat, have been the scapegoat for many years, right? So, uh, when we got the 64, 65 Civil Rights Act approved, shortly after that, women got the right to vote.
And okay, I'm not gonna.
You follow me already,
Oh,
RJ,
oh,
right?
we go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish your thought.
All right.
But we've
So
always led the way, and people have always rode the coattails of
there
our
you,
progress.
there
But
you
go ahead.
go.
Go
There
ahead.
you go.
You finish. You
Right.
finish it.
Very well way to sum that up.
Yeah.
So because of that, uh, DEI was never about black people, ever about black people. It was about a community of people who felt marginalized and targeted, and y'all know who I'm talking about, right? So they used that, us, as their face and to push a narrative because we're going to get behind our people and push and push and push. And so that's what it was. He is not coming out there, in my opinion. This is my opinion, it's not opinion of the department anyway. Um, in my opinion, he's just trying to dismantle that group of individuals
Mm,
because they got out of control. Uh, um, and people are upset that, he removed the Civil Rights Act, but they don't understand that what act did they use to get to where they're at right now. to use the Civil Rights Act. And so in order to strip them of their power and everything that followed after the fact, you had to go all the way back to the root and what of the situation and remove it. So there are black people being hired. There are black people that are excelling. There are black people that are safe, that hasn't been targeted by any means um, by him. I didn't vote for him, so I'm not, and I don't really care for him personally, but he is who he is. He's the president, and I don't have to respect him. I just respect the position. And so he has a position, and I try to sit back as a person and look at what is the real thing behind all the smoke and mirrors. The fear and the panic, I'm not moved by that. So I can move that out of the way and look at something for what it really is. And if you look at what it really is, even when DEI was in full effect, I saw what it was. I want people to be treated right. I want people to have a fair shot. And I think what he probably really wants, and the oldest thing it really is that we don't need to, in some aspects we do, set aside things for people to have a special way in. Because sometimes through that process, we let people in that's not qualified.
Yeah.
On both sides, white, Hispanic, gay,
Mhm.
matter, they get in because they are those things. But for me, if anybody asked me in my position, I'm the first person, first black person to hold the position that I hold, period.
Yeah. That's
It's
awesome.
of it. But I didn't get it because I'm black. I got it because I'm damn good at
There you
what
go.
I got it because I'm overqualified for the job. And anybody, regardless of what you look like, that's what you want to stand on. I got this job because I'm too damn good for them not to give it to me.
There you
Mm.
go.
That's it.
I'm hogging all the time. I got another quick question, and I kind of already know the answer. You've already stated it. So as far as like whoever the president is, that's really not. It doesn't matter because your allegiance is to America, right? Yeah, my uncle wrote a book. He says it's the flag. So that's your allegiance to America and not to the president. But how? At the end of the day, the president is technically, quote unquote, your boss. Is he not? Or
Yeah.
so how do you go around that ebb and flow? How do you get around you know disagreeing with what his policies are, or maybe the things that he says, but still at the end throwing your support behind him and that office? How do you balance that?
There's two ways to do it, right? Like I said, being in the military is a microcosm of America. So so you have enlisted people who I'll dub as like the black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, right? Some poor white people. And then you had officers, your your black people who have arrived. We all know them. Just because they're black like us, they don't treat us the same. The Asians, the Hispanics, but mostly predominantly the white, well-to-do are in control. So those guys, I can be serving and do 15 years, right? I've got all kinds of experiences. I might even have multiple degrees, which I did. Then you have, you know, Nick, the new guy, comes out of college, never worked anywhere. He's now appointed as an officer, and he comes into your unit. He's in charge. He don't know anything, right? And so some of those guys have enough intelligence to say, I need to lean on the people that have been doing it, that enlisted guy who's been around, who knows the things, that has the respect of the Marines and so on and so forth. I need to listen to him and learn from him, be humble enough to learn from him, but also be the mouthpiece that speaks as I'm in a position of leadership or in charge. Then you have the other guy. He may sound familiar to you. He comes in, he don't know anything. He's just, I want to show y'all that I am in charge, that I am the man, and you have to listen to me. So you're gonna do what I tell you to do. No problem. We let that person do that. We follow his rule. And when
Hmm.
everything fails, we also let him know, oh, that was your decision,
Right. Hmm.
right? And unfortunately, we have to fix what they tear up. So
Wow, man.
Answer your question.
Yes, sadly, yes. It's like we know it's going off track, but we gotta go this way anyway. That's terrible. I
Right.
mean,
And you hope that they get the demise before it gets too late.
right,
And there have been times that they do, and there have been times that they don't.
right.
And most Americans don't know unless you serve in the military. There are people who are dead because of people like that.
Mm.
Wow.
The
There, there,
ego.
there are 19-year-olds that didn't get a chance to go back home. There are older people who had kids and wives that didn't get a chance to go back home because of that guy.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for that.
There was one more question I wanted to ask too. And I didn't know this till somebody pointed out that it has always been this way, or it has been offered before. But the buyouts for the federal employees, do you know anyone who has partaken of that? Like, yeah.
I have two of my employees took it. So
Wow.
so that so what it is it's been said other presidents have reduced the size of the federal government in different ways,
Yeah.
right? And I told you earlier when you asked the question, is it about do I agree on it, right? What they're doing. Um, I do because it sometimes you have to, trim a little bit of the fat, and we kind of got a little hefty in some areas, in some spaces. Not every office is that way. Some offices are hurting; they need more people, but other offices, because of what they're supporting, what they're doing, they're plus size, man. They had all the luxury, right?
Hmm.
uh, but in this moment, my two people, they were going to retire anyway. So what he's saying, what they were saying in this, and this is an unprecedented way of doing this. OPM, Office of Personnel Management, it's like our HR for federal government, right? The big HR. They don't normally interact directly with federal employees. They normally go to their counterparts at every agency and say, hey, this is the intent. Tell me how we get there. Or you guys go do this, come back and tell us who all wants to resign or whatever.
Mhm.
They didn't do that. They bypassed all that and went directly to the federal employee. Again, it's a lot of a show, right? Because now I can post into the news that OPM goes to 2 million federal employees to offer them a buyout to leave. And what he's offering to them is that I will let you stay in your current status of remote work, 100% telework, or some portion thereof until September 30th, whereas then you can resign. I'm going to pay you. I'm going to give your agency the ability to continue to pay you on administrative leave if they want to move off of you onto somebody else. But it's a backstory behind what he's doing. I need to reduce the size of the federal government. So instead of just getting rid of positions altogether, I can identify positions that's going to go away possibly at September 30th. And they say, well, why September 30th? Well, the way we're budgeted for the most part for until September 30th. That's the end of our fiscal year. So even though right now we don't have a budget that's passed, we're on a continuous resolution, they can continue to pass the budget. The money's there to pay for those people until 9/30 anyway. So
Mm.
there's no loss there by anything. If someone continue to work how they're working, I know they're going to take this, so I'm not requiring them to come into the office anyway. I don't have space for every single person to come back into the office anyway. So I'm gonna give some people out that's gonna take it anyway, because guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna retire anyway. It's just retiring a little bit later and they don't want to come into the office. So they say, I'm gonna stay home, continue to do this, and then retire. I have one that's retiring in June, one that's gonna retire probably before then, in March or April. But she ain't gotta come into the office. So it's not the same story that's been put in the news. Uh, some people are taking it because they're like, why not? Why not get paid for free for 9 months and then I can go and get another job somewhere else?
Exactly.
So American tax people should be more pissed by that because, like, I want to pay somebody for 6 months, basically. And some people make really good money, 150, $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't get paid, and then they are free to go get another job.
Mm.
And tax dollars is paying for something I ain't getting back in return.
Right.
There you go.
So yeah.
But Telly, we're up on an hour now, and we want to respect your time.
Hey
Um,
man, I'm here as long as y'all need me here.
all right, sounds
Two
good.
hours, but I mean,
Sounds good.
we got more questions. I'm happy to answer. I love the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are a business owner. You want to tell us about some of that?
Oh yeah. So, I always tell people don't put all your eggs in one basket. I could be comfortable where I'm at, have a nice job, so on and so forth, but you should always have a backup plan, a fallout plan, just in case things like what's happening today happens, and you're just like, you know what, I can't deal with this. I want to step
Mhm.
right, and you can
Right.
step away from something that you've been cultivating for a little while that most people don't know.
Yeah.
So, I started flipping houses in 20 October 2015, I think it was.
Okay.
Um, did that until 2021. Yes, yeah, I flipped the last house in 2021. Made some decent money doing that.
Very
Uh,
cool.
my wife is a published author. She's published, ooh, maybe 10 books or so, I think now.
Mm.
She's helped other people write their books, and she edited it for them and published for them, and she got some success stories there.
I knew
She's
there
a
were a couple. I didn't know there were 10 books that she's
I think
written.
it's 10. I think it's 10.
Wow. Wow.
Done a
That's
lot.
awesome.
Just stay cranking them out all the time.
Very cool.
Some stuff that she hadn't even released yet, she still has. Uh,
Gotcha.
but yeah, and so I we coach and teach people in the space of business. I am working with a partner, a friend of mine that also served in the Marine Corps, but we didn't serve together per se. I
Right.
didn't know I was in the Marine Corps. I met him after the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Uh, and we're working on something probably, well, since April 2022, we started working on this thing.
Okay.
I spent some time in and out of Atlanta because he's based out of Atlanta, and a lot of things that we do are in based out of Atlanta. But
Gotcha.
the the sum total of what we're doing is trying to change the culture of our people, right? And showing them uh, if we come together as a people and unify, then the sky's the limit. So
Mhm.
I was quick side note, I was doing, messing around with ChatGPT and I asked it the questions like what would happen if every person of African diaspora and descent, I mean, have any kind of African background, and whether you are Cuban, Haitian, Dominican, Colombian, whatever, you live here in the United States.
Right.
Uh, if we were, but I focus only on the United States. If we were to leave all of our entertainment, sports, and arts, what will be the financial impact? And it said that the industry would lose 150 to 175 billion dollars in the first year.
Wow.
So that tells me that if we unify at even 50%, we can go establish something that's worth 80, 90 billion dollars. How powerful?
Very powerful indeed. Very powerful.
So, yeah.
So, this thing that you're partnering with the other gentleman, is this something you're just keeping close to your chest right now? Um, or,
In some aspects,
okay.
so I will say that we're doing an event in Atlanta on Juneteenth weekend, June 21st. I've titled this thing as the Cultural Governance and Economic Exchange Event. Um, we had a location, we had to adjust on that. So I am trying to find a new location. We're trying to host about 100 people with entrepreneurial mindset. People from our team are going to come in, people with all kind of background. I have people who
Wow.
have extremely successful businesses, including a partner who his company won a $1.4 billion contract, uh,
Mm.
Department of Defense, I'm sorry, and another young man, he's 26 years old. I think when he was 22, 23 years old, he was making $250,000 a month um, doing foreign exchange. So
Wow.
he
Yeah.
still messes with that. He's successful. I have two people that have managed second and third largest wealth fund in the country.
Mm.
They're on our team. I have people who have traveled around the world, establishing businesses in different places. I have people that are currently in on the continent of Africa negotiating other billion-dollar deals as we speak. So there's a collective of people that's with us that are going to come to this event and they're going to teach freely. The event is going to be free for anyone who wants to attend. We're capped out. We want to be about 100 people there. But we'll have a lot of educational stuff to explain and talk to people, and that's one side of it. The other side, that's the profit side, is uh, a company called Unified State Group. You can
Okay.
Google it and check us out. But we're basically are collaborating business at a expedient level with some of the most powerful companies and people in the world. Um, we have partnerships with some of the top e-commerce companies in the world, the top one. And if you're know enough about that business, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Um, the company that's leading in chip performance for most of our AI. If you know anything about that, you know who I'm talking about with them. Um, we have, yeah, business partners around the world. Again, some of the richest families, richest people in the world are partnered with us. And we're making a lot of waves, and it's only a few of us that's working together. So yeah, so Unified State Group, man, you can look us up on there, um, and you'll see more from us. You'll hear more about us. Just things I can't even tell y'all right now. That's
Gotcha.
happening as we speak. But yeah,
If
so
you have a link or something that you would like for us to share, I'll be glad to put that in the description for sure.
yeah.
So, is this gonna be an invite only thing? Because how you gonna cap it like at 100? Like, how would that work? Like,
It's
Mhm.
not invite only. We're gonna post it out there, man, and I would love to have more than 100, but the space is going to limit me to not being able to have 100 people. I will be tickets given out. So when we hit that number, we'll shut off registration. You won't be able to come in unless you're registered. So yeah. But yeah, we're gonna, this will be the first event. And the organization is called Unified Black America, UBA.
Right.
Uh, so it is a movement. It's not an organization. I said organization is not an organization. It's a movement. So it can't be touched. You can't take it down. You can't do anything with it. Doesn't have any business ties. So it's really just a movement and a mindset that we're trying to instill in our people. And understand that for most that don't know, in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the black dollar circulated 36 times within the community. So everything a black person needed was there in the community that they
Yeah.
could get, right? So
Right.
today the black dollar circulates 6 hours.
Big difference there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was some of the most wealthiest times as black people that we had. And our fight is to get back to that point. If today and what we see today, what's happening around us, if you can't understand the importance of us coming together now, then you never will.
Absolutely. That's a noble goal for sure.
All right.
Telly, tell me if I'm wrong, but in the early 90s, we were in school, and you said that you had an aunt or some family member who had retired early and had paid off their house and was buying another house. Did I just make that up in my head?
But, uh, actually, yeah. Not you make you're not making it up in your head. My aunt lives across the street from my grandmother. Well, my grandmother's house, I should say. Yeah, she still lives in the house that she bought. At that time, I think they bought one more, but then before her late husband passed away, they owned together about 200 houses, 200 places in the county.
So I didn't make that up. And do you remember that conversation at all?
I don't. That's crazy. That's crazy that you
That's
remember that.
yeah, right, right. So
Yeah.
I assume they were an inspiration to you.
Yeah, my uncle was an inspiration for me in business and real estate. I didn't realize that until I got into the real estate game.
Right.
I wonder where it came from, where that passion, desire to take something that was torn up and rehab it and put it back on the market for a family. I got that from him, working with him. And so yeah, it became something that I got into, and I would go into a place that had mold crawling up the wall. That was, sometimes, 4 or 5 inches of water still sitting in it. And I could see past all that and see the beauty in the house. And 6 months later, man, it was in the hands of a new family that was much, much better condition than it was before. And felt great.
Beautiful story,
At the
man.
end of the day, you're in it to make money, right? But how do you make it a balance as far as like not wanting to gouge someone for purchasing the home at the same time? How do you balance that?
Um, I mean, I priced out my properties at market value when we sold. But during the process, so if anyone listening to this and you want to get into flipping homes, uh, really, not what you see on HGTV. Understand that you make and lose money on your purchase. So if you buy the house at the wrong price, you can't recover from that most times. And so sometimes people try to recover from that by gouging the person at the end by overpricing them, right? So for me, I always went into it, it was never about the money for me. I knew that I would make money as long as I did a proper product. So I went into it uh, wanting to present something that the first time home buyer could get and not have to worry about something breaking 2 months, 3 months into it. Because like unlike me being in the military, I buy a house $0 down, right? And sometimes I can walk away with money if I wanted to. But the average person has to save and scrounge up money to have 20% down or as little as 6% down, even on the FHA program. So knowing that people put so much, their money into this trying to buy, I didn't want them to have to move into something that they're gonna have to fix a couple months later. That don't sit right well with my spirit.
Right,
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 So
right.
yeah, my goal was I would build the house, we would refurbish the house the right way, make sure everything was working properly, and put some quality stuff in there for the price point that I knew that I was going to ask for it. And if everything went well, I would make money. And there's times that I didn't. There's times that I lost $80,000. But the people who bought the house, they were over the moon happy with what they got.
Mm.
right.
You know, um, but yeah, I just went into it, man. Um, with the heart and the mindset of trying to give people a quality place, unlike what some of my other counterparts are doing out here. They were just putting lipstick on stuff to try to get over on people. And
Right.
really,
Yep.
yeah, they didn't replace something that needed to be replaced, and they had a hookup at the county that was going to pass them in an inspection, and knowing that that house had safety issues, or yeah,
Cause that's always one of my concerns when I hear about house flipping. That's that's mainly what I think of. I think of somebody buying a house and then selling it for this exorbitant amount, and that to me that's just not a right thing to do. But I'm glad to hear what you just said to me there. Appreciate
yeah,
that.
and I kind of. And like I told them, I said, 21 is when I sold my last property. Um, and I kind of stepped away from it because during COVID, man, there was so many, wolves out there
Mhm. Yeah.
working and I used to pay for a full bathroom remodel about 2,500 and $4,000.
Mm.
Mm,
That's $25,000 today.
That's crazy.
Same material,
Right.
same work, 25, man, 25,000.
Yeah.
That's people gouging people like crazy, man, to try to make a dollar. And now as a investor, I put my money out first before I get anything back. And if I'm putting out that kind of money, there's no way I can do anything else but overcharge somebody in the back end to try to, not lose my shirt. So,
Right.
I didn't want to be a part of that game, man. I know people made some record profits and stuff like that, but I just couldn't be a part of that game. So I kind of stepped away from it at the moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Telly, man, we want to thank you for your time. Izzy, did you have any more questions before we get out of here?
No, no, that was pretty much it, man. Enjoyed the interview. That's
Absolutely.
pretty.
It's like we had 4 different interviews.
Telly,
Yeah.
you play chess?
I don't, man. It's hard for me to sit still that long. My wife would tell you I'm a busybody.
Well, if you playing against me, it won't be that long, so it'll be a quick game.
Oh.
Oh God. Yeah,
I was gonna say
yeah.
No,
I need an ego boost. So
yeah, my father-in-law, man, he plays and he often try to get me to play. I was like, nah, Pops, we can go on this basketball court. You can get served out.
There you
Wow.
go.
Yeah, nah, I can't mess with you on chess, man.
Challenge.
I know the game, but yeah, I've never sat down to study the strategies and different, sets and stuff like that and how to counter different things. So I know of it, but never had enough patience to sit still that long, man. I'll be gone. I'll probably like checkers, man. I'm gonna try to jump you and do something crazy, and then I'm gonna leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, again, Telly, we want to thank you for your time, brother. We know you're a busy man, even though it's the weekend. Telly Renfroe is from Washington County, Georgia, which has a population of about 20,000. And now he is the director of Procurement Services for the Department of Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, tell your children they can be whatever they want to be. Here's living proof. You are watching Of Two Mindsets. Please hit the like and subscribe button. On behalf of Izzy and RJ, I am D Hill. And Telly, anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Hey man, I support you guys and what you're doing. I think it's awesome. Thank you first of all for thinking I'm worthy enough to be on this stage with you guys to talk about this kind of stuff. To support you all and early stages, man. But what you guys are doing, I know your momentum's gonna grow, your crowd's gonna grow, your following's gonna grow, because it's authentic, it's pure. So again, appreciate the love for being on here, man.
thank
Much
you.
much respect to you all. And as you said, man, hit the like button, subscribe, and follow these guys. And then recommend them to them who they think who you think they should talk to. There's a lot of successful people that we have out here that don't walk around with Louis on or anything like that. And there's billionaires walking right in the midst of you that you don't even
Exactly.
realize came from humble
Exactly.
beginnings. So, hey, let's find out who they are. Let's talk to them, and the next phase of what I am into, if it goes the way God has showed me it's going to go, then I'll come back to this show, man, and we can talk about this time, this moment, and about where I'm at that time. So,
Awesome.
We're definitely
Be
going to be
great.
glad to have you back multiple times and until the end, man. So
man.
thanks for the kind words. And on behalf of the gentleman of Two Mindsets, we want to thank you all again and have a great day. Peace.
Peace.